Good evening and welcome to this edition of KTN Prime. It's the 1st of July 2013. Good evening, my name is Betty Kialo.
I'm James Smart. The highlights.
The petitioner and the respondent are directed to decamp from their hardline positions and proceed to the negotiating table in good faith.
No one else can purport, not even the President of the Republic, cannot order teachers to go back to class.
We expect our teachers tomorrow morning to report to class because we know and are sure that our teachers are law-abiding citizens. They believe in the rule of law.
Who will blink first? Teachers and government face off.
Kenyans face more tax on food items as VAT bill is tabled.
Mimi sikuwa najua mambo ya SUNSCREEN, lakini nilikuwa sikai kujua sababu ya ngozi yangu ilikuwa inaharibiwa na jua.
We'll show you why people living with albinism are angry.
And do you know the man who hoisted Kenya's independence flag? Welcome to the program. Now, teachers and the government could be headed for a major clash after teachers vowed to ignore a court order requiring them to report back to work tomorrow morning.
Deputy President William Ruto, who has asked teachers to heed the court's orders, says refusal to resume work will amount to anarchy.
Attorney General Githu Muigai waded into the dispute, warning teachers that they risk a jail term if they disobey the court's orders.
Well, Rita Tinina has been following the intrigues on the teacher strike and now brings us the latest.
2003, which was a product.
At the Industrial Court, a ruling by Lady Justice Lynette Ndolo did not go the teachers' way.
Teachers are directed to report back to work by 8 a.m. on Tuesday, 2nd July 2013.
Justice Ndolo ordered Labour Cabinet Secretary Kazungu Kambi to initiate dialogue with the teachers' unions, NAT and KUPPET, and give a report to the court on the 15th of July. But teachers are not paying any attention to what transpired in court.
Mugomo sasa ndio umewekwa mafuta. Unaanza rasmi.
A teacher strike in Kenya is only called and called off by the Secretary General.
The court order a relief to the government, which has been trying to get teachers back to class.
I think it is the duty of the Kenya National Union of Teachers to respect the law. Any other arrangement will amount to anarchy.
Attorney General Githu Muigai is warning teachers who will disobey the court order that they risk going to jail. Ruto directed Labour Cabinet Secretary Kazungu Kambi to convene a meeting between the Teachers Service Commission, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, and the teachers' unions over the current deadlock.
And we will be truthful because we would not want to say things that are not possible. We will say things that are possible and we will put our cards on the table.
NAT will hear nothing about negotiations, saying the 1997 deal is not negotiable.
We have only refused to renegotiate.
We cannot negotiate negotiated, signed, and gazetted agreements. What are we going to negotiate?
But the government says the 1997 deal does not exist.
In the subsequent negotiations of 2003, they signed to amend the negotiations in 1997.
So this the same Gazette notice they are saying we have not implemented.
With a court order and an olive branch from the government to teachers to negotiate, the real extent of the teachers' resolve will perhaps become evident on Tuesday morning when the court's deadline for teachers to report back to work expires. Rita Tinina, KTN.
Well, that story leads us to a big question, and tonight we ask you, do you support the decision by the Kenya National Union of Teachers to disobey the court order? Do you support the decision by the Kenya National Union of Teachers to disobey the court order? Send us a yes or no answers with a brief comments to the number 8040, and Betty and I will sample your comments during this live newscast. Well, now, as the various sides in the dispute dug in, teachers from several regions threw in a new twist, demanding that teachers from private schools stand in solidarity with them. NAT officials from several regions, including Nyeri, Isiolo, Meru, and Laikipia, told KTN that they had issued an ultimatum to private school teachers to either join in the strike that is now illegal according to the court, or face forceful eviction from their schools. The officials also asked teachers not to be intimidated by the government, urging them to stay strong in their struggle for higher pay packs.
Including the private schools, kwanza hao ndio tunatafutia pesa, si ndio? Hao ndio tunatafutia kazi. Na wakiendelea zaidi, sababu wengine ni walimu wamepeleka watoto huko. We are going to pay their schools very badly. Tuseme hata wanaiba mitihani.
We would wish and expect the private schools in this county to join in this fight for better terms, because as far as we are concerned, there are no private children in this country. All children are public children. They belong to the poor men and women of this county. And therefore, we would want to urge the private schools, hey, close down, and if you are not closed down by the day after tomorrow, we will come and close down those schools for you.
The issue of industrial court, we are not going to honor it. They are the ones who have given us the go-ahead of this strike the other time in February. So we are on the right track. So the strike continues. The struggle continues.
All right, let's make sense of today's happening. And in studio with me, I'm joined by the Acting Secretary General of the Kenya National Union of Teachers, Mr. Mudzonzi. Karibu sana. Thank you. The courts have spoken, Mr. Mudzonzi, and they're saying that this strike is illegal as of tomorrow. The Deputy President says tomorrow you should be at work. I've seen today your chairman saying, listen, you're not going to work. What's happening?
One, we have not been served with any court order. Two, the teachers shall take instructions delivered by the Secretary General of the Kenya National Union of Teachers, once authorized by the National Executive Council to do that. And the process is, upon receipt of the court orders, we shall summon the National Executive Council within 7 days. So, before the Executive Council meets, that intervening period, the teachers beginning tomorrow, they will be out on a strike. So, in very brief, our very brief message is there will be no teachers at any school tomorrow. They will be on strike.
I must ask you this though. The government says, the Deputy President did come out clearly and says, listen, this laptop project is money that is spread out in 3 phases. We even don't have the money as of yet. So that money that you're targeted initially is not even there.
Actually, in 1997, when we were negotiating about the 534 legal notice, we were not targeting laptop money. There was no laptop there. We are targeting a situation, and that situation still persists. The remaining issues are house allowance, medical, and we are not talking about laptop. We want those areas addressed, and the story ends there. Then we are invited to negotiate new terms and conditions of service. We are ready. But as far as the SEREM advice stands, all CBAs must be concluded. In fact, they should have been concluded by 30th June.
Muzo, I must ask you this though, for the public that is watching. We've been treated from last week and up to now, we're being told you are not ready to negotiate, you don't want to negotiate with the government. You are saying, listen, we are not wanting to negotiate, we are saying other things. So what exactly is the genesis of the problem?
That is a misconception. We are ready to negotiate but we are not ready to renegotiate the already concluded deal and sealed under legal notice number 534. 2, we have not been invited by anybody in writing, through phone, through email, or anything. There are processes and procedures of inviting people to the table. And when you are inviting people, officials to a round table talk, you must make an award. We want any government official, competent and sincere enough to Kenyans, to demonstrate that he has offered us something and we have refused in writing, or he has invited us and we have not gone. There is no communication from either the Teacher Service Commission, the Labor Minister, the public, the Education Secretary, or even the Deputy President, Mr. William Ruto, who we respect. And if what is making over the press, the statements is making over the press, if at any time he wrote a letter to us, let him produce it.
Finally, I must ask you this very quickly, Mr. Muzozi. What will it take you, 30 seconds, very quickly, what will it take you to ask teachers to end this strike and go back to school? What will it take?
Payment in full of the remaining 3 allowances: house allowance, medical allowance, and the commuter allowance. That can take us back to class. And the government willingness and sincerity in all the dealings. The government as at now is very insincere. Let them be sincere to the Kenyans, because these children are for the public of this country who voted for this government that we love and respect. But since they do not want to conform and rule by the rule of law, they would like to intimidate, then we are there to show the Kenyans the kind of people we are dealing with. They are not sincere.
Mr. Muzozi, Kenya National Union Secretary, Kenya National Union Acting Secretary General there, talking to us and saying it as it is. Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Stay with me.
Well, thanks much to more economic burden, and a new tax on processed food items could be looming as the VAT amendment bill goes to Parliament for debate. The government has insisted it is inevitable to levy more tax to get the necessary revenue to fund the heavy budget. The bill seeks to impose a 16% VAT on essential items as well as food items. If the bill is approved, the prices of food commodities like bread, milk and maize flour will go up. KTN's Arunocheng reports.
Kenyan taxpayers will have to brace themselves for yet another economic burden as the government, through the Treasury, is seeking to amend the Value Added Tax Act and slap an additional fee on processed food items. In the VAT bill to be reintroduced in Parliament in a matter of hours this Tuesday afternoon for the first reading, the Treasury is seeking MPs' approval to allow the tax collector to impose a 16% tax on previously zero-rated and exempted items. The 16% tax will be charged on basic commodities that include bread, rice, wheat flour, and milk. The tax will also be imposed on sanitary towels. Landlords will be taxed on rent received, and there will be additional tax on fuel. The move will also see the prices of maize flour, which is consumed by a majority of Kenyans, go up. Beer consumers will pay more, as well as other items like toothpaste and cosmetics.
The best practice not really is to target through taxation. It is really better to target the poor through expenditures, and we are putting more money on the expenditure side.
The Finance Secretary defended the move, saying the government has incurred new expenses this financial year and said none other than the taxpayer has to foot the bill.
We have, continued free education, free maternity care and all that, which is really what people spend on.
Since 1989, the government had exempted the taxpayers on value-added tax on food items, and the new move is likely to be unpopular with common mwananchi.
Maisha itaenda juu sana, maisha itakuwa ngumu sana. Watu wengi kidogo utaona wataanza kurudi chini kimaendeleo.
Sisi wananchi wa kawaida tutaumia. Sasa serikali tunaomba wasiongeze hiyo VAT kwa chakula.
Tunaomba wapunge wetu waweze waangushe hiyo bill kabisa. Otherwise itakuwa na umaskini.
The bill will be introduced in Parliament for the first reading, after which it will be sent to the Finance Committee before it is debated and approved or rejected. The Jubilee government has easily managed to push things through this Parliament owing to the Jubilee majority in the National Assembly. Aaron Ocheng, KTN.
All right, now to that 100-acre parcel of land in Eldoret involving Deputy President William Ruto and Afama Muteshi. Sources now say that a number of MPs are considering the position to take over Kakamega. Senator Boni Halwale's call for Deputy President William Ruto to be censured over the Eldoret land saga.
The senator's demands come in light of a court ruling that saw Ruto lose ownership of a 100-acre parcel of land that court ruled was acquired unlawfully.
Well, but with Ruto's ruling coalition firmly in control of both the Senate and the National Assembly, how far will Halwale's push go? Here now is KTN's Edith Kimani.
It is from this 100-acre piece of land that Deputy President William Ruto's misfortunes seem to be unraveling. Just last week, Ruto was dispossessed of this plot and asked to pay 5 million shillings to the original owner, Adrian Muteshi, for trespassing. But Kakamega Senator Boni Halwale is demanding more.
Kama kweli Nancy Barasa alifukuzwa kwa ajili ile kitendo ya kuchuna mwanamke mapua, Ruto awache kazi kama makamu wa rais kutokana na hiyo kitendo.
While Halwale has been direct about his call for a resignation, other members of the court coalition have offered softer alternatives to the court ruling.
We want to know all those architects of these schemes so that we can then be able to use our constitutional intervention to punish because so that we can safeguard the sanctities of the offices that we create. He's not the Deputy President of Jubilee, he's the Deputy President of Kenya.
In his defense to the courts, the Deputy President claimed no involvement in the land transactions, claiming he purchased the plot from a third party. The court, however, ruled in favor of Muteshi, who has been living as an IDP since his land was illegally sold. Edith Kimani, KTN Prime.
All right, now to South Africa, where we take you to the health watch of the Mandela's health. Asha Mwilu is in South Africa, and she has prepared for you a brief on just that health watch. Let's take a look.
Nelson Mandela merchandise tops the list of the most requested items in South Africa today. For the past month, as the world shifted its attention to Pretoria, South Africans have fully capitalized on this attention. The focus on the health of the anti-apartheid hero has sparked a sudden interest in South Africa's rich history. Museums, national treasures, and even monuments have now become the top tourist destination spots. Right opposite the Mandela restaurant on Vilakazi Street, young South Africans are taking advantage of the Mandela situation to sell some of the freedom fighters' famous literature.
Apartheid was a very traumatic experience. It was something that our parents would never forget till this day, because it was something that brought pain, it brought scars.
At this time, and as a nation, we are behind him, fully in support of his vision and his mission, that the strength that he will continue and to be the father of our nation always. We love you, Mandela.
The residents here say that Africans from all nations should learn to embrace their history and brand their heroes for the world to see.
I think of myself as being a world changer, and as I said, he is inspiring us to be better people. And I mean, part of us walking around Soweto today is actually to be inspired to see what our peers have done before.
Activity outside the Mediclinic Heart Hospital in Pretoria, where Mandela is receiving treatment, has since decreased. Local and international journalists are, however, still camped outside, waiting for the next update on Madiba's health progress. Asha Mwilu, KTN, Pretoria.
Thank you very much, Asha, for that update. We now take a short commercial break, but before then, a reminder to our big question tonight, in which we had asked, do you support the decision by the Kenya National Union of Teachers to disobey the court order? Do you support the decision by NAT to disobey the court order? Send your yes or no response with a short comment to the number 8040, and Smart and I will sample your comments during this newscast.
Indeed, we do take a short break, but coming right up.
is celebrating, in the East African region really, celebrating 3 years in existence. But the question we're asking really is, are there any benefits of this kind of union? Also, Joseph Bonyo takes a look at the trickling effect of this particular union at the Namanga border post. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to KTN Prime. Now, the Albinism Society has rejected the move by the National Council for People with Disability to register people with albinism, stating that the body has not involved them in making the crucial decisions affecting them. The society also insists that the procurement processes for the planned sunscreen products for people living with albinisms are wanting. To put the row into context, KTN's Sharon Manyi sat down with a man who has watched helplessly as dangerous rays from the sun eat away his skin because of albinism.
45-year-old Simon Kamau is suffering from squamous cell carcinoma, one of the major forms of skin cancer. He has been ailing for over 3 years, in which his condition has been going from bad to worse.
Inauma sana hata nikikunywa dawa zile za pinikira. Sasa imefika mahali hata haisikii hiyo dawa tena. Sasa huwa na kukula ni tabu. Sasa mdomo haufunguki. Sababu hiyo sikio imeshikana hii joint ya mdomo. Sasa mdomo huwa haufunguki mpaka ni chakula isiagwe.
Skin cancer is one of the major plights of persons with albinism. The Albinism Society of Kenya has been on the forefront to stand up for this group of people, including advocating for the provision of sunscreen products at a subsidized rate by the government.
We have lost over 8 members within a year, persons with albinism. Yeah? Because of this skin cancer, which can be protected by applying sun lotion. Every time people ask, Maura, what is it that is different between you and other people with albinism? It's because I use sunscreen, nothing else. And that is now what is unaffordable, because you cannot have somebody pay that kind of money and they don't have a job. This is the same person unamwambia go and register at the district, which is not existent. And yet you're also buying the same product that he requires, because it's an essential life product, at double the price.
Mimi sikuwa najua mambo ya sunscreen, lakini nilikuwa sikai kwa jua sababu ya ngozi yangu ilikuwa inaharibiwa na jua. Kwa hivyo mambo ya sunscreen kutumia sikuwa natumia, lakini nimekuja kujua baadaye ya kwamba hizo sunscreen zinasaidia sana kuzuia watu ambao wana hii condition ya albinism kuzuia hiyo mwangaza wa jua, sababu ndio unasababishaga hiyo skin cancer.
The National Council of Persons with Disability launched a registration exercise for persons with albinism a few weeks ago with the aim of providing them with sunscreen products. However, the Albinism Society has rejected the call for this registration and criticized the procurement process as well as the manner in which the program has been run.
We have not been involved, that committee. The council now decides it's now its own money, yet we actually say the money should be held in trust by them. And they have gone ahead and done a census without our consultations. They are telling our members to go to the district headquarters to be registered. Our people do not have fare. But most poignantly, there are no districts in this country. There are no districts. We only have counties. So where are these districts and where are our members supposed to go? Then they have gone ahead and procured sunscreen without asking us for specifications. They are procuring sunscreen of low quality, because SPF 30 we don't require. But most disturbingly, they are flouting the Public Procurement and Disposal Act 2010 by procuring the sunscreen at unreasonably inflated price, market rate.
Simon now needs over 1.5 million shillings for a treatment procedure in India, and is just one of the cases of those suffering quietly as the long wait for government intervention continues. Sharon Momanyi, KTN.
All right, in 1963, on the eve of independence, Kisoi Munyao scaled Mount Kenya. At midnight, he would lower the Union Jack and hoist the Kenyan flag in honor of his country. The unionist tomboy had contracted him to undertake the task, yet despite this contribution, Kisoi would go to his grave, a poor man with nothing to show for his dedication. Tonight, on the debut of our 50th anniversary series with KTN's Wilkie Stanyabwa, we revisit the story of Kisoi and his legacy.
Metal scrapes against stone as Teddy Kisoi prepares for the visitors of the day. Since the mausoleum was opened, a steady stream of visitors has continued to pour in, seeking insight into the life of the man buried here. For here lies Kisoi Munyao, husband, father, friend and patriot, the man who hoisted the Kenyan flag on Mount Kenya in 1963. Rock climbing was an ordinary pastime for a young boy growing up in Kisao village. Little did Kisoi Munyao know that this would later catapult him to fame and earn him a place in Kenya's history. The hilly countryside in Kisao, where he grew up, provided the young Kisoi with several opportunities to pit himself against nature. But he didn't stay here for long.
We'll sit down and you explain to us how he started the exercise, how he got employed by the white men as a kitchen boy, how finally went to school, how he managed now to become a potter boy of these white colonials because they like mountaineering so much. I used to accompany them, how he started getting a passion and interest to climbing until he realized that he was someone who was very hardworking.
Kisoi conquered first one mountain, then two others, earning himself a reputation as a skilled mountaineer. This reputation saw Kisoi receive a surprising phone call just before independence.
Aliniambia aliaprochiwa na tomboya. Na akaniambia tomboya haku Kenya itanilipa. Aliniambia tu niende tukasaidiane tukomboe nchi.
And so it came to be that Kisoi and his team set off on the expedition. Others would give up along the way, but Kisoi soldiered on to the very top, driven by the need to succeed in this task.
He would remember he's the only man who was approached to be able to do that task. If he fails his country, then this country would have failed.
At midnight, Kisoi hoisted the Kenyan flag on top of the mountain. He came back down a national hero and was whisked away to attend Independence Day celebrations.
It was everywhere that Kisoi Munyao Aisha Bendera. There were also songs that had been tailored for him. Neamaro to Munyao Aisha Bendera.
Afterwards, Kisoi would fade away from the public eye. He quietly went into business but suffered ill health in his last few years and struggled to raise money to offset the medical bills. In 2007, Kisoi Munyao died at the Kenyatta National Hospital. He was accorded a state funeral and a mausoleum was built. But his mausoleum is not all that he left behind. His dreams and his name would be carried into a new generation by two sons, one named after him, another following in his footsteps. In 2010, 3 years after Kisoi's death, Kenya passed a new constitution. A delegation went up Mount Kenya, taking a copy of the constitution up the mountain. One of the members of this team was Teddy Kisoi, a mountaineer just like his father before him.
Kwanza nakumbuka alikuwa akiambia watoto wake chukue nini hii talent yangu apate na ikakuja automatically.
I was happy actually to go back to the mountain again, doing an historic event when my dad still had done another great event.
In 2013, 6 years after his father's death, the people of Mboni voted in Michael Kisoi Munyao as their new member of parliament.
I also want, within my time limit, if God allows me, to serve this country well, also to make a mark in history.
The late Kisoi had only 3 children by the time he undertook the mountain expedition. The rest were born afterwards and would learn what their father had done in classrooms during history lessons.
The other classmate will start saying, no, this is your dad, look at this, he's the one who did it. And you see, and even the teacher would want to really emphasize so much and maybe even say one of his sons, can you stand up? Can you stand up? This is the son.
50 years after the country's independence, heroes wrested the country from colonialists. A new generation is coming up to fulfill the dreams of their fathers. It is a work in progress. Every failure and success marked against the progress that Kenya is making and the opportunities it avails to these young Kenyans.
Wenye walikuwa wakitaka kwa baada ya miaka 50 itaweza timika. Inaonekana inaendelea tu, ingawa inaendelea kwa polepole. Lazima iende polepole mpaka tupikie ile kiwango hao watu walikuwa wanataka. Na sasa akiamuka kama mzazi, sio kiserikali, akiamuka kama mzazi atafurahia watoto wake vile alikuwa anawaambia wamefuata. Naendelea tu na serikali, na hiyo serikali si moja alijenga.
In 2007, the government built this mausoleum in memory of Kisoi Munyao, the man who hoisted the Kenyan flag on Mount Kenya on the eve of independence. Today, it serves as a place where visitors remember the man, his great deed, and his vision for the country. Wilkinson Abwa, KTN in Makueni County for the 50-year series.
Well, long live Kisoi Munyao's legacy. From the courts, the woman who had confessed to having planned to kill her husband has been released on a 1 million shillings cash bill after she changed her plea to not guilty. At the same time, it was reprieve for 168 inmates who were released from Kisumu prison today during the inauguration of Kisumu Court of Appeal by Chief Justice Dr. Willie Mutunga. For this and other stories from the courts, here is KTN's Winnie Kamau.
A woman who had confessed to having planned to kill her husband has been released on a 1 million shillings cash bail and an alternative of 3 million shillings bond by Acting Chief Magistrate Peter Ndwega after she changed her plea to not guilty. And 2 students were today arraigned in court facing charges of trafficking anti-narcotic drugs worth 15.3 million shillings. Monica Werimo and Terry Wamboye denied the charges and were released on 1 million shillings each. In Nakuru County, remand prisoners at the Nakuru GK prisons boycotted court to protest the backlog of cases and hefty bonds awarded by magistrates at the Nakuru and Molo law courts. They chased away prison officers who were mandated to transport them to court in the morning. And in Kisumu, Chief Justice Dr. Willie Mutunga set free 168 inmates, both men and women, in Kisumu County today.
168 waachiliwe.
Speaking in Kisumu during the inauguration of Kisumu Court of Appeal, Mutunga revealed that after their talk with the President and the Attorney General, they agreed to consider the plight of inmates who are old and those very ill. Winnie Kamau reporting for KTN.
All right, KTN Prime takes a short break. When we come back, Boni Tunya will be bringing you up to speed with the day's business. Do stay with us.
For teachers of Kenya to have worked and then a certain power directs that they should not be paid is misplaced. And we want to make it very open that we do not draw, teachers do not draw their salaries from Kaimenyi and Kaimenyi investments. They draw salaries from the Teacher Service Commission.
Good evening, you're in time for the day's business report. My name is Boni Tunya. 3 years since the coming into place of the East African Common Market Protocol, the 5 East African member states have little or nothing to show in terms of economic benefits. Now, the Common Market was expected to widen and deepen the East African regional cooperation in economic and social fields. But the years down the line, the EAC member states are still struggling with teething problems with the calls for the need to fast-track the harmonization of standards for most traded goods, as well as enactment of crucial laws to expedite the process.
The implication of this protocol is that the citizens of the 5 partner states can now move to secure employments and put up business ventures in any of the partner states without unnecessary restrictions. Service is to say that The common market concept has now opened up the entire region for business and other profitable engagements for the citizens, providing entrepreneurs with the ready markets for over 135 million persons, a combined GDP of over $85 billion.
Now, even as the East African community celebrated 3 years since the inception of the Common Market Protocol, very little is there to show for it. Now, KTN's Joseph Bonyo visited the border town of Namanga to access the process of the protocol.
At the Namanga border post, trucks line up on either sides of the border. Most of them, however, find relief on the common ground known as the no man's land. I am on a mission to find out how the benefits of the Common Market Protocol are trickling down, especially to truck drivers. In this quest, I meet a group of Kenyan truck drivers who tell me they have been stuck at the border post for the last 3 weeks. The drivers are on a transit to Dar es Salaam to deliver machinery for Agreco Limited. However, their journey seems to have taken an uncertain break at the Namanga border.
Nimekaa hapa kwa muda wa wiki tatu. Kuna ripoti ilitoka Tanzania wanasema lazima email itumwe Dar es Salaam irundi. Hawamalizi hapa kwa hapa.
Yeah. On the other hand, I also meet a Tanzanian truck driver who is spending his third day at the border. His cause for delay are known to him. As a result, he cannot cross into Kenya with his load.
Shida ni mingi sana, sio uongo. Tunapata shida sana. Kwanza hiza hii hela tunayopewa za chakula zinaisha hapa. Paka tunapiga tajiri kwa simu kwa tajiri anatuma hela kidogo, anasema kwa nini, tatizo gani huko kwenye dokumenti? Tunaambia sisi hatuelewi, labda uongee na hawa dokumenti, unaambia kesho utapita, kesho kutwa mtavuka. Tunakaa tunaendelea kukaa tu. Kwa hiyo hizo borders zimekuwa ni matatizo sana.
The wars of traders between the member states of the East African community continue to showcase the disconnect between policymakers and implementers. Namanga border post is key to the economies of Kenya and Tanzania. However, despite the coming into effect of the East African Common Market Protocol, residents and traders here tells us that very little seems to be happening in terms of appreciating the coming into being of the Common Market Protocol. While the technocrats in charge of drawing rules of engagement within the community say a lot has been going on to achieve seamless trade and movement of labor, they are also familiar with what is hampering the success of the common market. Joseph Bonyo, KTN Business Today.
Right, let's talk about power now. And Standard Chartered has committed to financing more than $2 billion in energy projects under the Power Africa initiative. The initiative is a 5-year partnership between the United States, 6 African governments, and the private sector. The governments of Ghana, Tanzania, Kenya, Nigeria, Ethiopia, and Liberia, and a group of private sector firms are taking part in the initiative to improve access to clean, reliable power in Africa. Power Africa will add more than 10,000 megawatts of cleaner, efficient electricity generation capacity, increasing access to electricity by more than 20 million new households and businesses. Standard Chartered is committing more than 20% of the initial private sector contribution to Power Africa, alongside the U.S. government's provision of $7 billion of financial support. Right, it's time to look at how your money is doing. Let's take a look at the money market report coming up next. Good night.
All right, welcome to your sports brief. Now, Thika United have cemented their grip of the Kenya Premier League after they held FC Leopards to a 1-1 draw at the Nyayo National Stadium. Noah Fuller's goal in the 5th minute kept the FC Leopards' hopes of winning alive when Thika United's defense was unable to cope with Boni Ware's cross from the right, giving Wafula an opportunity to fire in a shot for the opener. Michael Luvutsi carved A free kick in the 68th minute that found Dennis Odhiambo unmarked to draw party. Now Thika United are the table toppers with 27 points, while FC Leopards remain at the 10th position, 9 points behind Thika United. Here's how we end KTN Prime with a big question. We asked you if you support the decision by the Kenya National Union of Teachers to disobey the court order.
All right, 75% say yes and 25% no. Just to sample some views here. Yes, this is a misuse of the judicial process by the government. Let the government take its responsibility seriously. That's Masharia in Malindi. And the last one here, no, Kenya has become a country where people don't respect the law. I ask the government to sack all those who will miss class tomorrow. That is Manura from Bungoma. Thank you very much for all your responses and indeed for watching KTN Prime. My name is Betty Callow.
Do have a lovely night and do enjoy the rest of your viewing. My name is James Smart.